Do you ever wish you could just have a conversation with a 6 or 7 figure earning social worker just to hear their ideas on business and entrepreneurship? Because I recently sat down with Kathryn Zambetti, who, get this, just 1 year out of getting her master's degree in social work, already has a 6 figure business and is on track to be a multi-millionaire using her social work skills. So we had a really fantastic conversation. It was so good that I had to split this video up into 3 parts. So in part one, she talks about how she actually entered the social work arena. And in part two, she talks about what social workers can learn from business and vice versa. And in part three, she talks about the opportunity that is available for social workers right now to tap into the business world and make more money. You do not want to miss this conversation. So do me a favor, like all of these videos so that YouTube can make sure that more people see them. I'm not going to say it again, so please just remember to do that. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe. And we're not even going to do our normal introduction. We're just going to get right into the conversation. So let's go. Kathryn Grace Zambetti. Is that how you say it?
Perfect.
Welcome to the channel.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
No, not as excited as I am because I know what my audience is about to learn. And it's what I preach all the time, which is, I named my channel Rich Social Worker for a reason. And it's it's because I have this crazy dream that every social worker can kind of have a similar perspective to the one, you and I, we've had a conversation already. So to the one that I think you have. And so I'm really happy to have you on the channel because I want people to hear what that perspective and what that mindset is. And so can you just start with just how did you come into the social workspace? And I know you have an MSW and you have a very unique title, but could you just start with telling the audience how you approached getting your MSW?
Absolutely. So I came to graduate school from kind of an untraditional path. I realized once I had started at Columbia, which was I came out of undergraduate business school from Georgetown in 2008 and, had a full adult career experience prior to going and getting my master's at Columbia. And so, I started a tech company in my early 20s and from there realized that a lot of the experiences that my peers were having, including the experience that I had with my co-founder, was that our business folded because we had co-founder issues. It had nothing to do with the ability to raise funds or, lack of a great idea. We had both, and we just weren't able to communicate, and we didn't ask each other the right questions leading up to starting our business together. And then I started to see this being a trend, and then seeing stats coming out of Stanford, like 65% of startups fail due to co-founder conflict. And I was like, wait, there's something here that's not being tapped into. And so I went to grad school with a very clear idea of what I wanted the outcome to be with this licensure. I felt that there were a lot of coaches out there, life coaches, executive coaches, that lacked licensure and certification. And then there were a slew of LMSWs, psychotherapists, psychologists that lacked the real life and business experience required to be dealing with a business leader. And so I went in with a clear vision of what I wanted this degree to provide my career, which was bridging executive coaching and psychotherapy for executives and startup founders.
So you were in the business space already,
Yes.
Experienced, challenges in communication, which usually have to do with like differences of values and differences in terms of being able to communicate what those values are and what matters. And you saw that there was
a trend, I suppose, in your space,
Yes.
and then wanted to get certification or licensure to help you address that problem. And so you pursued this MSW. And I know when you and I were talking, what was so interesting to me is that you actually, I know you said you had two field experiences.
Yes.
Well, we talked about two, right? And one of them was with a hedge fund startup.
Mm-hmm.
So I can imagine that most people that pursue their social work degrees are not even thinking about doing a placement with a hedge fund manager or in the business arena at all. There's so many things I want to ask you, but can you just help us to understand a little bit about how you pursued that and why that was important to you?
So again, going to school with a really clear idea of what I wanted to get out of this degree. And so what I noticed when I was in school is that a lot of my classmates were really young, and they had a kind of loose idea of what they wanted to do with their MSW, but a lot of them were coming straight out of undergrad and didn't have really the life experience to have the perception and the ability to have a clear view of what they wanted to use this for. And so, my first year I was placed at an elementary school in Brownsville, Brooklyn, working with kids kindergarten through fifth grade, which was an experience that I cherish and really moved me. And I will absolutely figure out a way to weave in that experience into my career down the road, and we can talk about this later, but I absolutely feel, given what I saw, it reinforced that to really make a difference and a change, it takes money. And I like to do things at from a macro perspective. Helping just one elementary school is wonderful, but these children are being raised in marginalized communities and built into an inherently racist system, and it has to be changed at the root. And the only way to do that is through power and through money. And so while I was really excited about that experience, and I think about those children every day, I know that I need to make a place for myself with my career first before I can really make a huge impact. And I think that I can help along the way, but I have bigger goals now given that experience. And then to get to your question, my second year, I realized, okay, they just pick your name out of a hat. They pick the field placement out of a hat, and they just connect you and say, go. And so again, understanding what I wanted to do with this degree and why I was in graduate school, spending the amount of money that I was spending to leave the working world where I was making a really great salary to then put a hold on that, go to graduate school. I needed to get what I was paying for. And Columbia at that time didn't have, and still didn't have, the opportunities for me in place that I wanted. So I went out and I figured out the opportunity that I needed to do for my second field placement. I presented it to them and they came on board. And it was through a friend of mine who was starting a hedge fund, and it was his first endeavor doing this on his own. He was going in with a co-founder, and it was just the perfect kind of mix of what my skill set was and what he was getting into. And luckily he was open enough and willing to let me be a part of that experience. And now he's a paying client. And this is another thing I want to tap into, is that these field placements with the MSW program are unpaid. And that to me is a travesty, and I think should absolutely be illegal. I also, so I did the business minor. So I did the MBA program at Columbia in tandem with the MSW, and none of the MBA students for a second would think about doing a free internship. And none of the professors or the administration at the MBA school would ever think of allowing their students to engage in a free internship. Yet this is just routine for the MSW program.
This is the culture, not just MSW, BSW as well. This is the culture of social work. And when in fact, my BSW was a paid internship. And I remember my college being so excited that, oh, we got the first paid internship. And people were really kind of jealous of me. And I thought, I don't see why this is such a big deal. Isn't, this should be normal. But you're right. I think this will be novel for a lot of social workers to hear that, when you're paying for an MBA, you're paid to go
And
to
not to mention, a lot of MBA students have their previous employers funding their degree. You don't have that in social work at all, where I don't know what the stat is, but a lot of the MBA students were going there their whole education was being paid for by their previous job, hoping that they would come back, with a new skill set and add to their business. But again, it's a business model, and the MSW program just lacked so much business sense. And I think when you have students coming out of undergrad, going straight into this program, or maybe working for 2 years going into this program, and then working full-time for free, what values do you think that you're instilling in these students when you're telling them blatantly that their work is worth nothing?
Yeah.
So it's knowing what your time is worth and standing up for that. So I think that is something that is going to be changing. I think at Columbia, it was something I really raised my voice about. I haven't followed up, but
I think this particular part of our conversation is going to, get a lot of feedback, because I imagine maybe technocrats might say, well, a lot of social work is volunteerism, and we do it for the income, not for the outcome, and all that other stuff, right? And I love what you said earlier, going back to that first field placement experience that you were saying. You've got to be financially stable for yourself in order to make the impact that you want to make in these systems of, whether it's poverty or inequality or whatever. But you've got to have, I don't know if you've heard this expression, it takes cash to care. But I know that within the social work culture, money is often either not talked about or not talked about. It's not given the significance that it really needs in order to make the impacts that we want to make. So I love that you highlighted that.
Yeah, I mean, I think money is taboo, and I think that's also extremely sad. I think it's also about choice, right? If you are going into the MSW program and you solely want to work with marginalized communities, and you know that you're not going to make money, and that is okay for you. You are okay living a certain lifestyle, and you don't have dreams of living a different lifestyle than that, then that is your choice, and that is okay. That being said, what's not okay is not thinking that you have the choice, right? Which we all do. And I think that the school, I have never been a part of an organization or an education system where repeatedly, daily, we were told by our professors that you're not going to be able to make over 6 figures. You're absolutely not going to do that within the first X amount of years. You're going to be stuck at $50,000 a year. I mean, that is the most ludicrous and untrue statement with this degree. And so to not only not pay kids for their field placement work, but then to have professors that they're looking up to telling you that this degree is not going to make you money, you're going to think you're going to believe this. And it's not true at all. And the concept too of not embracing making money, and the concept of finance not only being taboo, but kind of laughed at, and you're okay not understanding money. No, you're okay numbers aren't my thing. That is the most ridiculous statement, and it keeps you stuck, and it keeps you in a place of inferiority. Learn business. It's not difficult. People try and make it seem like it's this whole thing that, social workers just don't engage in. And I feel like it's almost systematically placed that way to keep the two separate. And it's not healthy, and it's going to just keep everybody stuck making no money, which and not actually helping the systems that we say we want to help so much. Completely.
I have a question for you, and so we're talking about business, we're talking about social work. What is it that you think social work and social workers needs to learn from the business sector?